Dear friends, this is my message to you, recorded on August 25th, and that's a Wednesday, for the week of the 14th Sunday after Pentecost. We'll worship together on Sunday, the 29th of August. This week's newsletter, from which you might have linked to this video, has an abundance of opportunities for living out our faith by loving our neighbors. Let me offer some highlights very quickly. In that newsletter, you'll find a sign up for the September Bible study on the book of Ruth. That's the 8th of September through the 29th at 5:30 p.m., and that's here at Atonement's building. You'll also find a sign up for marching in or participating in the New Jersey Pride Parade and Pride Fest, and that's on the 10th of October, which is a Sunday. You'll find an invitation to participate in or donate to the Bike Ride for Food Justice that's happening through Trinity Episcopal Church, our neighbors and siblings who are right across the park from us. And Atonement has a team that's going to be participating in that as well. So if you ride a bike and want to ride, please see that information. And if you want to donate, see that information as well. That's happening on the 11th of September, which I believe is a Saturday. Then there are a number of wider opportunities. Transforming White Privilege, which is a 3-session workshop the Synod is offering for those who want to begin doing anti-racist work and want a little bit more in-depth orientation and training. That's happening over Zoom. There are 2 options. One is a Saturday 3-week option, and one is a Thursday 3-week option, and those details can be found either on the Synod website or in the newsletter. The same is true of the LIRS, Lutheran Immigration and Refugees Services Sacred Silence program, which is in solidarity with the people of Afghanistan. There's links and descriptions on their website. You can start with the link that I've put in our newsletter. That's about ways you can help refugees, ways we can pray, ways we can donate money, ways we can start to educate ourselves. I encourage you to check that out as well. The same is true of the Bishop's Jehu Jones Challenge. That's been going on for quite some time now. There's a lot of details below. Jehu Jones was actually an African-American Lutheran pastor in, I believe, the pre-Civil War, and he was attempted to create a Lutheran mission in a neighborhood in Philadelphia. And the systemic racism, unfortunately, of Lutherans in that period meant that he never got the support that was promised to him. So the Bishop's Challenge is that we donate to create a fund so that people of color can receive seminary educations without cost to try to heal some of the damage that has been done through a systemic negligence of people of color in our church. And finally, there's an announcement about Hymn Sing Sundays in worship. It's actually a survey link, and that's for us to know how we're doing, what your experiences of song and worship are, and for you to request some hymns that you might like to hear in the coming months when our dear friend Michael Stouch, our music director, returns, and that he will be back starting on September 12th, which is a Sunday, and that Sunday and the Sundays following will have organ accompaniment to our singing. So all of that can be found in the opportunities section of your weekly email, where you have links and details. And there's a great deal to do and to consider and to hear and all of that, right? It's a lot of stuff. But in the midst of these opportunities, I think I need, and I think we remember, to be centered on the gospel of Jesus Christ, who is our master, whose life has become our lives in the world. As our lives are undergoing the scheduled changes that herald the coming of September, we remember who and whose we are, and we do so by dwelling on those things God has given to sustain us. For Atonement, our articulation of our life together is in our vision statement. We experience passion for God in worship and Bible study. We grow together as disciples, stewards, and leaders. We embody mercy and justice in our community. This vision statement took many months to put together and finally articulate. Each word is quite intentional. Our passion for God is what constitutes us as a community, and we receive this passion in worship and study of the Scriptures. And because of that, worship and the Scriptures are at the center of our lives. That's why I'm a pastor. Because I've been trained and called to serve our community specifically by facilitating worship and Bible study. preaching God's word, administering the sacraments, teaching the faith. From this passion for God that draws us together, we are then nourished and we grow together. We grow together as disciples, which means follower and student, because we're always learning the scriptures anew and following our Master Jesus Christ wherever he leads us. And we grow together as stewards, as caretakers of property that's not ours, because we understand that we as humans own nothing, but instead that everything and everyone belong to God. So we seek always to improve in our caring for creation, and our caring for ourselves, and our caring for our neighbors so that life may flourish. And we grow together as leaders, that is, as people who serve others to equip them to act, because we recognize that making other disciples, other students and followers of Jesus Christ, and enacting the gospel message with our actions as well as our words, all of this is fundamental to our faith. This faith in God, that is the God who is revealed in Jesus, sends us out into a world full of danger and wonder to embody mercy and justice. We embody mercy for all broken and hurting human beings, recognizing that we must not only heal the wounds of sin and evil in general, but in this particular time, we must work to repair the damage done by the actions of many who have called themselves Christians. And for those in positions of power and privilege, we embody justice, calling all in authority to use their positions as though they were servants. It is when the powerful use their power only for the weak, and the weak are uplifted in compassion and solidarity, that mercy and justice will at last kiss in the kingdom of the living God. Now, I think this vision of what it is to be a community that follows Jesus is beautiful. It does not paint a picture of certainty in our own projects, nor does it paint a picture of brutal tasks that will always demand our time and attention and give us nothing in return. As our lives move into a persistent period of pandemic, it's becoming clear that atonement is transitioning from what it was before, even as recently as 2 years ago, and is becoming a new thing, or at least entering a new period in our life as part of the church. The opportunities that I've just mentioned are a part of what those new things might look like or might involve. Whatever the particulars of atonement's ministry over the coming years, it will involve hearing God's word and growing as God's children and serving God's people in the world. And in the midst of all the things that are passing away or might change, this is what does not change: God's love for us and God's call to love human beings. In the gospel reading for this coming Sunday, Jesus takes some religious elites, the Joel Osteen, Rick Warren types, to task for placing obedience to human traditions or customs over obedience to God. But Jesus' real point isn't actually about tradition. It's about marginalizing people for having a different practice, or neglecting our relatives by concocting religious-sounding reasons to withhold financial assistance from, for example, aging parents. The religious types are concerned about clinging to tradition because that's where their identity is found. But Jesus is more concerned about healing people, breaking down barriers to community, and helping us see that God has called us all to help one another. Any religion that serves itself ends up opposing God's kingdom. Too often, that is what religion, even in Christian congregations, has become. We do not exist for ourselves as individual human beings, as families, as towns, as nations, and atonement certainly exists for a reason beyond merely continuing to exist. We exist by God's grace to serve God's kingdom, which begins in Jesus and ends in justice and mercy worked for the least and the lost. So whatever our future holds, we know that this vision of God's kingdom invites us into joyful living, freed from all that oppresses us, and all that oppresses others, so that we may be agents of healing and liberation. And indeed, this life is very good. I hope that you'll be able to join us on Sunday. And until the next time I'm able to see you and grow together with you, may peace be with you always.